Good morning, world. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, and today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. Here on the East Coast of the USA, it's a little bit after 9 a.m., 9:17 a.m. to be exact. And the weather for today in this area, we have afternoon showers predicted with a high of 91. Currently it is 74 and feels like 74. Highs in the low 90s and lows in the low 70s. Breaking news in the weather. Powerful winds rip off prison roof. Rain possible this afternoon. That's a 31% chance of that occurring. Grass pollen decreasing tomorrow. All of you allergy sufferers or other people that have respiratory conditions. The temperature will be almost the same as yesterday, Sunday, down by 1 degree. And currently, the conditions are good for running, cycling, and gardening in the Lexington area. The AQI is moderate at 54. The UV index is low. Humidity is higher than yesterday at 81%. It does feel a little bit muggy, but the dew point at 68. There is a light breeze at 5 miles per hour. And today, sunrise was at 6:49 a.m. and sunset will be at 8:35 p.m. In weather-related news, cars submerged as flash floods hit Milwaukee. And National Hurricane Center is tracking Atlantic disturbance. Before I get into the headlines and top stories for today, over the weekend, it was announced that President Trump would be meeting with Russia's President Putin in Alaska. You can't really see all of this world map that's displayed behind me, but this is Alaska here, and Russia is just like right across there. I guess by air it might be an hour from Russian territory to the borders of Alaska. So this kind of got my mind to thinking because Putin is a war criminal. So him coming out of Russia to the U.S., would kind of stir the pot a little bit to me. But in the 3 years that Russia has been at war with Ukraine, and since Putin being declared a war criminal by the International Criminal Court, things have changed. So this meeting between Trump and Putin is scheduled for Friday of this week. So the latest information is as follows. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet in Alaska next Friday to discuss the future of the war in Ukraine. Trump announced the 15 August meeting on social media, and it was later confirmed by a Kremlin spokesperson who said that the location was quite logical given Alaska's relative proximity to Russia. And I believe historically, the United States purchased Alaska from Russia. President Vladimir Zelensky said any solutions must include Ukraine, adding he is ready to work with all partners toward a lasting peace. The announcement of the meeting came just hours after Trump had signaled that Ukraine might have to cede territory in order to end the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of its neighbor in February of 2022. You're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years. A lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died, Trump said at the White House on Friday. It's very complicated. We're going to get some back, we're going to get some switched. There will be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. The U.S. president did not provide further details of what that proposal would look like. However, the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, citing sources familiar with the discussions, reports that the White House is trying to sway European leaders to accept an agreement that would include Russia taking the entire Donbas region and eastern Ukraine and keeping Crimea. It would give up the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions, which it partially occupies, as part of the proposed agreement, CBS reports. Earlier on Friday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Putin had proposed a similar arrangement to Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff during a recent meeting in Moscow. It remains unclear whether Ukraine and European allies would agree to such a deal, given Zelensky and Putin remain far apart on the conditions for peace. Zelensky has previously rejected any preconditions for territorial concessions. In a statement released on Telegram on Saturday, the Ukrainian president reiterated the answer to the Ukraine territorial issue is already in the Constitution of Ukraine. No one will and cannot deviate from this. Ukrainians will not give their land to the occupier. Any solutions that are against us, any solutions that are without Ukraine, are at the same time solutions against peace, he added. That his country is ready for real solutions that bring peace. We are ready, together with President Trump, together with all partners, to work for a real and most importantly, lasting peace. A peace that will not collapse because of Moscow's wishes. One senior White House official told CBS that the planning for next Friday's meeting was fluid and it was still possible that Zelensky would be involved in some capacity. Moscow has failed to achieve a decisive breakthrough in its full-scale invasion, but occupies around 20% of Ukraine's territory. Ukrainian offensive, meanwhile, had not pushed the Russian forces back. And there are maps included in this article that show where everybody is situated in this territorial struggle. 3 rounds of direct talks between Ukraine and Russia in Istanbul have failed to bring the war closer to an end. Moscow's military and political preconditions for peace are seen by Kiev and its allies as a de facto capitulation of Ukraine. Russian demands include Ukraine becoming a neutral state, dramatically reducing its military and abandoning its NATO aspirations, as well as the lifting of Western sanctions imposed on Russia. Moscow also wants Kiev to withdraw its military from the 4 regions which Russia partially occupies in southeast Ukraine and to demobilize its soldiers. Trump, however, insisted on Friday that the U.S. had a shot at a trilateral peace agreement between the countries. European leaders want to see peace. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace, he told reporters. President Zelensky has to get all of everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he's working hard to get that done, Trump said. Last month, Trump admitted to the BBC that he had thought a deal to end the war in Ukraine was on the cards with Russia 4 different times. I'm disappointed in him, Putin, but I'm not done with him. He has hardened his stance against the Kremlin in recent weeks, imposing a deadline of Friday, 8 August, for Russia to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face more sweeping sanctions. But as the deadline approached, the economic threat was quickly overshadowed by plans for Trump and Putin to meet in person to discuss a potential peace deal. There was no announcement of further sanctions on Russia from the White House on Friday. Trump and Putin spoke by phone in February, in the first direct exchange between the leaders since Russia's full-scale invasion. The last time a U.S. president met Putin was in 2021 when Joe Biden met him at a summit in Geneva, Switzerland. So that's the current news related to that. And it also occurred to me that since Putin is designated as a war criminal, has he been anywhere outside of Russia? Because there is a standing order that if a war criminal travels to another country, that he can be detained and extradited to The Hague. So, on that issue, yes, President Vladimir Putin has traveled outside of Russia since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him in March 2023. Politically, because the U.S. represents the Western factions of democracy and other countries in the world are committed to communist ideology, then those countries that favor that ideology would not necessarily work against their own interests. But here's the current information. Yes, Russian President Vladimir Putin has traveled outside of Russia since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him in March 2023. The ICC issued the warrant alleging Putin's involvement in the unlawful deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia. While Putin has largely restricted his travel to countries not bound by the ICC's jurisdiction, he made a notable trip to Mongolia in September 2024, which is an ICC member state. Despite calls for his arrest, Mongolian authorities did not detain him. In addition to Mongolia, Putin has also reported visit countries like Kyrgyzstan, China, and North Korea, according to La Mode. He has also attended a summit in South Africa via video link after a court there ordered his arrest if he entered the country. So that's where that stands at the moment. So we'll see what develops between now and Friday. Just thought I would put that out there. World leaders and such. So today, Monday, August 11th, in the headlines for today, as soon as the Wi-Fi catches up with my thoughts and fingers, we'll be into it. Excuse me. And this first story that made headlines is coming out of Lexington. Again, it's buffering, folks, so and the headlines read, one arrested after shooting involving two cars. Still buffering. Okay. Here we go. Can't really get upset with the World Wide Web, can you? Since it is the World Wide Web, pulling information out of the cloud. Lexington police are investigating a shooting they believe started with a disorder involving two cars. It happened around 10:30 p.m. Saturday in the area of Baybrook Road and Mount Table Road. Officers say two cars were in a disorder when they believe someone got out of their car and shot at the other vehicle. While the vehicle was hit by gunfire, the woman inside wasn't hurt. Lexington police say the shooter was arrested and charged with wanton endangerment. They would not confirm the shooter's name. Super Bowl champ craves coaching return amid Mark Stoops' struggles and massive buyout fiasco. Again, here in Lexington, Kentucky. And has reaching out to Houston, Texas. I guess I could ask the question, has anyone else experienced buffering with their phone service currently? So the person being mentioned here in Super Bowl champ craves coaching return amid Mark Stoops' struggles and massive buyout fiasco. John Gruden eyes Kentucky SEC gig after expressing desire to die coaching in the league amid Mark Stoops' struggles. John Gruden isn't hiding his intentions. Speaking to the Georgia Bulldogs during fall camp, the former Super Bowl winning coach cut straight to the chase. The only reason I really came here is I want to coach again. I'm being honest with you, I do not exploitative either. I want to coach again. I died to coach in the SEC. I would love it. I would exploitative love it, John Gruden. Those aren't words you throw out lightly in a room full of SEC caliber athletes. They've already sparked the question. Could Gruden follow in the footsteps of Bill Belichick or just stun the sport by taking over at North Carolina late last year? Gruden's resume is undeniable. The man has done it at the highest level. Super Bowl 37 champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at just 39 years old. 117 career NFL wins and 5 playoff appearances. Known as a quarterback developer with Rick Gannon and Brad Johnson among his most notable success stories. A personality big enough to turn recruiting visits into viral moments. He also knows the college game. His coaching roots started in the 1980s with stops at Tennessee, Southeast Missouri State, Pacific, and Pitt before jumping into the NFL. His offensive playing fingerprints are still visible in modern schemes. The baggage weighs Gruden down. But Gruden comes with baggage, and no SEC program could dodge the elephant in the room. His 2021 resignation from the then Oakland Raiders came after emails surfaced containing racist, homophobic, and misogynistic language. The leak, which Gruden says was a targeted attack by the NFL, ended his coaching career overnight. He's been in a legal battle with the league ever since. Any school hiring Gruden would have to answer tough questions from media, fans, and recruits. And Gruden himself would have to stand in front of cameras and own every word that cost him his last job. How Kentucky would benefit from hiring a legend. From a Kentucky perspective, the fit is intriguing on paper, but expensive in reality. Mark Stoops' buyout will still be north of $30 million through the 2026 season. Unless Stoops steps down or negotiates a smaller number, that's a massive hurdle, even for boosters who might salivate at the thought of Chucky prowling Kroger Field. Any quarterback prospect would salivate to commit to Gruden, who has deep ties to the position. That would be NFL ready, and teams will know they have learned from a quarterback guru for 3 years. Immediately, 5-star players would be willing to come to Kentucky when otherwise they would not be interested. That's not leadership, that's control. Keyshawn Reigns slammed Supreme Court decision, giving Trump power to reshape government. Keyshawn Reigns, for some of you that might be familiar, isn't holding back. In the wake of the Supreme Court decision to let Donald Trump move forward with a sweeping executive order to restructure and potentially gut federal agencies without Congress, the self-described calm coach is anything but calm. This isn't efficiency, Reigns said in a pointed social media post. This is about control. It's about dismantling systems without accountability and without the people's voice in the room. As you know, Congress went into their session August 1 and are now on vacation. The court's 8-1 ruling allows Trump's newly minted Department of Government Efficiency to begin making layoffs in major agencies, from education to health and human services, immediately, even as legal challenges continue. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the lone dissenter, warned the move hands the keys to unchecked power. Reigns echoed that concern, noting that the people most impacted aren't political operatives, they're everyday workers and families. When you strip away the departments that handle education, healthcare, and housing, you're not trimming fat, you're cutting into muscle. And it's the people who bleed, she wrote. Her commentary comes as critics warned that the executive order could ripple through communities worldwide, delaying Social Security checks, reducing food safety oversight, and slowing disaster response. For Reigns, the issue goes beyond politics. We can't sit by while leaders use the word efficiency as a weapon to dismantle what protects us. That's not leadership, that's control. This is a video, folks, so I will...
Donald Trump unleashed on the Democratic Party for saying the only way they'll approve of his executive picks is if the Republicans release billions of dollars in government funds. Democrats, led by crying Chuck Schumer, are slow-walking my nominees, more than 150 of them. They wanted us to pay, originally, $2 billion for approvals. The Dems are crazed lunatics. The president wrote on Truth Social just before midnight on Saturday, August 3rd. According to inside sources, Schumer negotiated with the GOP to give $5 billion to the National Institutes of Health, $1 billion for the Global Fund, $300 million to the World Food Program, $50 million to fight HIV in developing countries, and roughly $140 million for the United Nations Children's Fund. Out of the 150 executive votes needed, only 8 were approved before the Senate left on Saturday, August 1st, for a month-long recess, prolonging Trump's wait for nominee advancement. A day before criticizing Democrats for stalling, Trump used Truth Social to assert the Democrats want our country to fail because they have failed. He praised Republican senators for striving to get his great appointments approved. He further accused radical left Democrat senators of doing everything possible to delay approvals. In another Truth Social post, the president told leftists to go to H, calling the demand egregious and unprecedented. He suggested it would embarrass the Republican Party if accepted, labeling it political extortion. Schumer responded to Trump's comments, emphasizing the pressure and tactics used on Democrats for votes. He criticized Trump's approach to negotiations, challenging his famed art of the deal by asserting, "Trump tried to bully us, go around us, threaten us, call us names, but he got nothing," the New York senator continued. He walked away with his tail between his legs. Crazed lunatics?
So that's to comment on what's going on in government now. The key point of me opening today's program with the meeting between Trump and Putin taking place in Alaska is that since Trump has taken office, one of the things he did was remove the United States as a member of the ICC, International Criminal Court. So that's another thing that has to be taken into consideration. That has been a big change. In the Cowboys preseason opener, CeeDee Lamb, dressed in street clothes, was given a 15-yard penalty after being trucked by an official. On his day off, CeeDee Lamb was tackled and given a penalty. After being struck by an official on the sidelines, the Dallas Cowboys' top wide receiver received a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. The official, who was rushing with his focus on the play, smashed into Lamb's back as he was celebrating teammate Jonathan Mingo getting open while standing on the sideline with his arm in the air. It was referred to as a foul against an official. After the collision, Lamb, the Pro Bowl player, seemed unharmed and even started joking with his teammates. For a 51-yard gain, Mingo also drew a defensive pass interference call from cornerback Sean Jolly of the Los Angeles Rams. The Cowboys went from being 3rd and 16 at their own 26-yard line to being 1st and 25 at the Rams' 31-yard line as a consequence. As you know, there's a line of demarcation between the field and what is referred to as the box. And Lamb has stepped out of the box onto the field, and the official was looking that way and slammed right into it by way of explanation. Parenting influencer Emily Kaiser's husband was watching basketball after placing a $25 bet as son 3 drowned in pool. Anytime there's a loss of life of a young one, especially a 3-year-old, and especially the parents, it's always tragic. This particular situation, after being investigated, was finally determined to be an accident. But here are the details. A parenting influencer's husband was watching a basketball game he allegedly bet $25 on when his son tragically drowned in the family's pool, cops said. TikTok star Emily and her husband Brady, Kaiser's son Trig, died on May 18th after falling into the family's pool at their home in Arizona. New details after his death were revealed by Arizona police on Friday in a report alleging Brady, 28, was watching an NBA playoff game and had left their son Trig unsupervised for over 9 minutes. Trig was in the water for about 7 of those minutes before Brady found him unconscious in the water, the report states. The tot died 6 days later in hospital. Brady was caring for Trig and the couple's newborn son, Theodore, while Emily, whose wholesome family content has attracted millions of followers, was out with her friends, according to the police report. Speaking to officers after the incident, he said he lost sight of the boy for about 3 or 5 minutes. I didn't have a clock. Obviously, I don't know the exact time, but it was moments. It wasn't minutes, it was moments. It wasn't that he had been out of sight for long, he told cops. CCTV footage, however, showed Trigg was unsupervised for at least 9 minutes, the report said, adding that the boy had been playing with an inflatable chair before he accidentally fell into the pool. Police initially suggested Brady be charged with 1 count of child abuse, but the Maricopa County Attorney's Officer later pulled this as it was deemed there was no reasonable likelihood of conviction. Kaiser's lawyer previously said he was reassured by the county attorneys through a thorough investigation and confirming that this was a tragic accident. According to the report, Brady told officers he wasn't on his phone before the drowning, and while a basketball game was on the TV, he wasn't paying attention to it. The dad told police he also saw his son in the backyard through a window. It was only when he went to get a drink that he noticed the boy in the pool. He acted immediately and performed CPR on the child, leaving him swaddled on the ground in the patio area, the report said. There's no evidence that the dad failed to act, but it is clearly Brady's attention was divided, it added. Reports released counties after Emily pushed to have the case sealed because of her large online presence. She reportedly argued that leaving the material public would open the door for social media sleuths to create disturbing AI recreations, similar to viral content generated after other high-profile deaths like the Idaho College murders. In his ruling, Judge Whitten declared specific material harm to her and her family outweighs the negligible public interest in those particular portions of the report. The narrow redaction of those sections strikes an appropriate balance between transparency and human dignity. Kaiser's attorney, Shannon Clark, later told the Mail Online, "We're grateful to the judge for carefully balancing the important interests at stake and allowing a narrow but meaningful redaction to the Chandler police report, removing 2 pages that detail the graphic final moments of Trigg's life. These redactions do not alter any material facts of the accident, but they protect the dignity of a little boy whose memory should reflect the love and light he brought to the world. From the start, this has been about protecting Trigg and the family's ability to grieve privately. This decision allows them and the public to remember him for the beautiful life he lived, not the tragic way it ended." Emily has not commented on the incident. This article did have accompanying pictures. I think. So that's them as a family. There we go. Emily. Again. So officials have done all that they could to handle that, as they say, in a humane manner. Minnesota Viking fans are raging as they threaten to cancel their season tickets over male cheerleader. Some Minnesota Viking fans have threatened to cancel their season tickets following the team's hiring of a male cheerleader. A new dancer named Blaze has joined the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders, a move that some consider to be somewhat groundbreaking. While a male football cheerleader is hardly a novelty, Blaze's role is different. He is expected to perform the same dance-based routines as his female teammates. His inclusion on the Vikings official dance roster is part of a seemingly growing trend where teams such as the Los Angeles and New Orleans Saints have welcomed males into their cheer squads. Blaze. Okay. The new cheerleader isn't part of a separate stunt or co-ed like the men seen in college cheerleading. He's been completely integrated into the dance team format, which is what some people have a problem with. I don't think the problem is male cheerleaders. Those have existed forever. Nobody wants a man pretending he's a female cheerleader. He's a man pretending to be a female cheerleader, another chimed in. These are comments from people who have seen what's going on. Canceling my ticket, don't be this BS to the NFL. Can Minnesota Viking fans really cancel their season tickets over a dancer? The Vikings have long been advocates of inclusivity and community engagement. As such, Blaze is expected to appear at home games, promotional events, and local outreach programs. It remains to be seen whether fans will actually cancel tickets, but even that's not easy, as NFL teams generally don't issue refunds for personal reasons. Excuse me. Which suggests that any such claims are likely more talk than action. Man found alive after a week of freezing temperatures says he survived by drinking water from discarded bottles. Now, as much as I can gather from this one, this man's on his way to work in a truck. For some odd reason, gets out of the truck, leaves it on the side of the road, parks it or whatever, and wanders off. A man who vanished for a week in the Australian outback has been found alive and told rescuers he survived by drinking water from discarded bottles. The Northern Territory Police Force said in a news release that 26-year-old Gach Top, G-A-C-H, last name Top, T-O-P, was last seen leaving his Alice Springs home on July 28 at about 3:30 p.m. local time. Roughly 2 hours later, he spoke briefly with family by phone but never arrived at work that night. His red Mazda CX-5, car vehicle, was discovered the next day near John Flynn's Grave Historical Reserve, about 4 miles outside of Alice Springs. The search quickly expanded, involving more than 50 personnel from local police and partner agencies, supported by ATVs, drones, and helicopters. Acting Sergeant Chris Rother said on July 31 that forecasted sub-zero overnight temperatures heightened concern for Top's safety. After 5 days of searching, police suspended the official operation on August 2, turning the case over to the Northern Territory Police Southern Crime Division for further investigation. Despite this, Top's families and members of the community pressed on, continuing their own search across the rugged terrain, according to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, 9 News, and The Age. On August 4, Top was found alive near Jay Creek Outstation, about 18 miles west of Alice Springs. He was wrapped in a blanket and was exhausted. Charles Yatt of the African Association of Central Australia told The Age. The family, including the community, are overjoyed because many of us felt that this young man was not dead. He was found alive and everybody was so happy. Andrew Thomas, a director of St. John Ambulance NT, told 9 News that Top appeared dazed and confused after being lost in the bush. He was treated for dehydration and taken to the hospital in Alice Springs. According to Thomas, Tops said he had survived by drinking water from discarded bottles found along the roadside. People are in utter disbelief after the owner of Trump Burger, a Donald Trump themed restaurant, was arrested by ICE and faces deportation. This kind of lends some validity to some of ICE's program. If you haven't heard, there's a Donald Trump themed restaurant in Houston, Texas called Trump Burger. The popular Texas chain sells hamburgers with the letters Trump etched into the buns. They have detailed artwork of Trump hanging on the walls, and their menu includes items like the Melania Crispy Chicken and the Baron Crispy Grilled, as well as a promise to make burgers great again. Well, the Trump Burger has recently gone viral due to its owner being arrested by ICE for allegedly overstaying his visa. Roland Marez Bainey, the 28-year-old Houston Trump Burger owner, was reportedly arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for allegedly failing to depart the U.S. last year after arriving in 2019 on a non-immigrant visitor visa from Lebanon. An ICE spokesperson said this in a statement about Bainey's arrest. Despite false claims to the contrary, Roland Marez Bainey does not have any immigration benefits that prevent his arrest or removal from the United States. Bainey is a 28-year-old illegal alien from Lebanon who entered the United States in 2019 as a non-immigrant visitor, but he failed to depart by February 12, 2024, as required under the terms of his admission. Under the current administration, ICE is committed to restore integrity to our nation's immigration system by holding all individuals accountable who illegally enter the country or overstay the terms of their admission. This is true regardless of what restaurant you own or political beliefs you might have. While awaiting his immigration court hearing set for November, Bainey has denied the charges, telling Crime, a Houston News website, 90%, his words, 90% of the shit they're saying is not true. Obviously, the internet has some thoughts on this one, with multiple people comparing the news to a South Park episode. South Park creators, write that down. They really thought it would be affected. They really thought it would affect everyone else but themselves, was another person's comment. And finally, this person pointed out that Trump doesn't seem to care about his own supporters. So that's the situation there in Houston with Trump burgers. 28-year-old Rainey with his Trump Burger restaurant. Chris Brown laughs off claims of using cocaine to maintain impressive work ethic. Sorry to disappoint, boo. No Booker sugar over here. Previously, Chris had been in the news, having been arrested outside this country for having assaulted a man with a bottle. He was held, but then it was determined that he could be released because he had an upcoming concert tour that was about to jump off or start, and that's where we left Chris to his business with the tour. So now we have this. Oops. Chris Brown is laughing off claims of using booger sugar, aka cocaine, to maintain his impressive work ethic around the world. On Saturday, August 8, a woman on TikTok under the username I Am Barty Flock shared a video to her page about C Breezy. The woman captioned the video, "Chris Brown is one impressive dude, formal. Like, how are you that productive off that powder? Impressive." The caption in the video read, "Chris Brown be mad productive off that." In her video, the woman said, "To be honest, these are her words, to be honest, Chris Brown is the only N-word that has any business doing coke because he's very, again, being productive off that powder. Like he's the only N-word I know that can make a 30-song album, dance his choreography, perform at a concert, do meet and greets, and still have the energy to do whatever the effing else he can fit into his schedule. Like you have people that be off that powder, bro, that don't do SHIT but tweet all day. This N-word does coke and he's mad effing productive. I know this sounds crazy, but it's so impressive to look at because I've never seen off coke be that effing productive, like no shade." Chris, surprisingly enough, denies using cocaine to fuel impressive work ethic and insists no booger sugar over here. The woman has since reiterated in a follow-up video that her comments and video are pure jokes and just messing around. Chris Brown, who seemingly caught that, joked around with her and laughed off the claims. He replied in her comments, "This gotta be the craziest compliment diss I've ever heard. Sorry to disappoint, boo. No booger sugar over here." Had to comment because this has to be the funniest SHIT I've seen all week. I'm just different. The woman replied back to the singer and said, "LM at a string of O's. Just know that I'm really Team Breezy, though I love you, soul man." Another TikToker user wrote, "Now this got to be me hollering, oh my OMG, because like it's a compliment and a shade, I don't know." The woman replied back, "A complimentary diss, I love that man, son." And since it is available, might as well share it. Oh, okay, there we go. Chris Brown on Instagram with the caption related to the woman's comments. There we go. C Breezy. Kourtney Kardashian blasted for reckless parenting after putting 21-month-old son on a boat sans life jacket. Kourtney Kardashian is catching some heat. On Friday, the reality star and mom of 4, 46, took to social media to share snapshots of her family vacation in Idaho. One photo in particular features her 21-month-old son, Rocky, who she shares with husband Travis Barker aboard a boat without a life jacket. Again, this is another one of those cases where a celebrity is able to respond in a way that kind of pushes everything into the neutral zone. "Food for the soul," Kardashian captioned the post. Social media users were quick to share their reactions to Kardashian's parenting decision. "No life jacket and the Mother of the Year award goes to," one user commented. "Not having a life jacket on your baby while on the boat is reckless and illegal," another wrote. One day later, Kardashian responded to the backlash. "Update. Bought a life vest that fits," she wrote on her Instagram story over a screenshot of an infant life vest. Good looking out. Honestly, didn't think about some of the dangers, she continued. Thank you for making me aware, and hopefully this helps make other mommies aware of the dangers of certain types of boating without a life vest. Followers quickly praised the Lemmy founder for her response. I love that instead of getting angry, she took the advice and wants to protect her child. She's a great mom. One user commented, no need to chastise her anymore, guys. With a great response from Courtney, there are many times in life when we just simply don't think of something until someone points it out. Great mom responds, another wrote. A representative for Kardashian did not immediately respond to Fox News' digital request for comment. Parenting police. All's well that ends well. North Carolina teen's body discovered in Florida 1 week after he vanished with chilling final message. So this is a case of someone going to Florida to visit. The teen goes off to do something that teens want to do with his cousins and walks off from that group. And there we have it. The body of a missing North Carolina teen has been found in Florida, where he disappeared more than a week ago after sending a disturbing final message to his mother, according to family and officials. Giovanni Pelletier, 18, was found dead in a retention pond near the southbound off-ramp of Interstate 75 and State Road 70 on Friday. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office told Fox 13 Tampa on Saturday. His backpack and cell phone were found nearby the previous day. Pelletier's mother, Bridget Pelletier, confirmed the body of her son was found in a Facebook post. My son was recently found after a desperate search by our family alone, and we are still facing an active investigation into his death. I'm living every parent's worst nightmare, trying to find the strength to give him the goodbye he deserves. We ask that you please respect our privacy at this time as we try to navigate this for his 4 younger siblings. Pelletier's cause of death was not immediately known. Pelletier, who lived in Farina, North Carolina with his family, was last seen on August 1. While on vacation with his family in Inglewood, Florida, when he left around 1:30 a.m. to visit relatives in Bradford County, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office said. The teen had left in a vehicle with cousins from his estranged biological father's side of the family, WRAL News reported. But shortly into the trip, Pelletier sent a chilling text message to his mother. Mom, help. He reportedly sent similar messages to his grandfather and an aunt on his father's side. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office said the cousin said Pelletier suddenly began to act erratically before exiting the vehicle and walking away near SR 70 in Manatee County. Pelletier family members from North Carolina immediately began searching for the missing 18-year-old. Nearly 24 others joined the search effort on Monday using ATVs and drones, Fox 13 reported. Pelletier's aunt, Desiree Pelletier, told WRAL News on Thursday, before the teen's body was found, that the family was concerned about the involvement of the cousins after she claimed they changed their story. How on earth are we supposed to be okay with these 3 boys saying this is what happened and then they changed it? She told the station. How are we supposed to be okay and not go for the possibility of something happened to him? The white Chevy Malibu that Pelletier traveled in with his cousins has been seized by the Bradford County Sheriff's Office, according to Fox 13. Coming back to the nation's capital. FBI patrols reportedly deployed in D.C. as Trump says homeless must leave immediately. what we know. The FBI has deployed its agents to conduct night patrols in the nation's capital, according to multiple reports, as President Donald Trump said that homeless people living in the nation's capital would have to move out immediately, ahead of a planned press conference where he would address his claims that violent crime is widespread in the nation's capital, despite federal data indicating crime rates have fallen to historic lows. Facts. Key facts. According to the New York Times and the Washington Post, the administration will pull 120 FBI agents, primarily from the agency's Washington field office, from their regular duty and deploy them on night patrol duty with local law enforcement officers to tackle street crime. Citing unnamed officials, the Post reported that the FBI is also sending in agents from Philadelphia and other offices to help in D.C., and the Secret Service and the U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division have also been ordered to conduct special patrols in the city. A White House press conference on Monday will essentially stop violent crime in Washington, D.C., Trump wrote on Truth Social, claiming that the city had become one of the most dangerous in the world. Trump said the press conference would take place at 10 a.m. on Monday and will focus on ending the crime, murder, and death in our nation's capital. The homeless have to move out immediately. Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social, accompanied by images of a few tents and refuse scattered on the side of the road and the steps of a building, adding, "We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital." Trump said his plans in D.C. include also beautification efforts and took the opportunity again to lambast the Federal Reserve for their years-long headquarters renovation and ballooning budget of at least $2.5 billion on the project. Trump has claimed in recent months that violent crime was rampant in Washington, D.C., and has threatened to deploy the National Guard and have the city be taken over by the federal government. Writing earlier this week that if D.C. doesn't get its act together, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city. The article goes on to outline the specifics. Because of the way Washington, D.C. operates, independent of the other 49 states, federal territory, federal oversight, in that sense, Trump can initiate these changes. But what really struck me was the reason. Well, let's deal with some of the numbers. Violent crime rates in Washington, D.C. dropped 35% against his claim of crime being on the uprise from 2023 to 2024, marking the lowest rates recorded in more than 30 years, according to the Justice Department. According to data released August 8 by the Metropolitan Police Department, violent crime rates have continued to fall in 2025, with violent crime down 26% year over year. The MPD said homicide rates have dropped 12% on the year so far, sex abuse by 49%, assault with a dangerous weapon by 20%, and robbery by 28%. Property crime rates have also fallen, including burglary, 19%, theft from vehicles, 4%, and other theft crimes, 6%. However, Trump continues to insist Sunday that the crime numbers keep rising. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, is a good person who has tried, but she has been given many chances, and the crime numbers get worse, and the city only gets dirtier and less attractive, the president wrote on Truth Social. The American public is not going to put up with it any longer. This is because a person in government, and this is the part that kind of gives the explanation for him even jumping into it. Trump previously called for the federal government to take control of Washington, D.C. by falsely claiming violent crime rates were rising in the city. His latest calls followed an attack on a high-ranking member of the Department of Government Efficiency, as Trump wrote on Truth Social that crime in D.C. was out of control and the federal government would put criminals on notice that they are not going to get away with it anymore. MPD said two 15-year-old suspects were arrested and charged with unarmed carjacking after Edward Carstein was assaulted in the early morning of August 3. Bowser said that although the incident was unfortunate, crime in the city was already trending lower for the month. We had one of the lowest crime levels in shootings in a July in recent history. The mayor said later, adding that carjackings fell 50% after spiking in 2023 and still falling this year. So this federal official, who was a member of the Department of Government Efficiency, had a nickname that just caused me to sit back. And I was just trying to get to it to see if it's mentioned in here, because I couldn't have found it anywhere else. It shows the reasons legally why they would be able to step in as a federal government into DC territories and affect these changes. But anyway, the person's nickname was Big Balls. I mean, that's how it came out, and I'm just trying to look for verification of it rather than go through so many details about how these changes come into effect. But that's the nickname of the person who had got carjacked unarmed and caused all this stir. CDC gunmen had become fixated on his trust for COVID-19 vaccines, authorities say. Prior to the shooting incident and the killing of an officer, the person who perpetrated this died at the scene, and they're yet to determine if his cause of death was self-inflicted or by one of the officers that had been called to the scene. He was depressed because of how he felt about COVID-19 vaccines, the CDC, and general information that was coming forward. And it's understandable considering Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does kind of give a mixed impression of what he thinks about medical procedures. But before that happened, according to relatives of this man, he was depressed because his dog had died. And people that had come in contact with him knew that he expressed his position on vaccines and COVID-19 in particular, but did not feel that that would lead to something violent. A Georgia man who had blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for making him depressed and suicidal has been identified as the shooter who opened fire late Friday on the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention headquarters, killing a police officer. The 30-year-old suspect who died during the incident has also tried to get into the CDC's headquarters in Atlanta, but was stopped by a guard before driving to a pharmacy across the street and opening fire, a law enforcement official told the Associated Press on Saturday. The man, identified as Patrick Joseph White, was armed with 5 guns, including at least 1 long gun, the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the investigation. A union representing representing workers at the CDC said the incident was not random and compounds months of mistreatment, neglect, and vilification the CDC staff have endured. It demanded federal officials condemn vaccine misinformation, saying it was putting scientists at risk. Police say White opened fire outside the CDC headquarters in Atlanta on Friday, leaving bullet marks in windows across the sprawling campus. At least 4 CDC buildings were hit, Director Susan Monarez said on X. DeKalb County Police Officer David Rose was mortally wounded while responding. Rose, 33, a Marine veteran who served in Afghanistan, had graduated from the Police Academy in March. White was found on the second floor of a building across the street from the CDC campus and died at the scene. Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum said, he added that we do not know at this time whether that was from officers or if it was self-inflicted. Thousands of people work on critical disease research or employed on the CDC campus in Atlanta. The American Federation of Government Employees, Local 2883, says some staff were huddled in various buildings until late at night, including more than 90 young children who were locked down inside the CDC's Clinton School. So, the union says this: staff should not be required to work next to bullet holes. Forcing a return under these conditions risks re-traumatizing staff by exposing them to the reminders of the horrific shooting they endured. The union also called for perimeter security on all campuses until the investigation is fully completed and shared with staff. And that concludes the headline, surprisingly enough, just like that. And the top stories: Landon Dickerson injury, Eagles Pro Bowl lineman carted off field with apparent lower leg issue. So that's kind of self-explanatory right there. What happened is just a video, so it shows that he was injured to that degree on practice on Sunday. Dickerson, a force at left guard for Philadelphia, had to be carted off the field and into the locker room, according to reporters covering open practice at Lincoln Financial Field. Dickerson, 26, was on the injury report as a limited participant with a knee injury on Saturday. He did not participate in team drills, but was a full participant on Sunday. And again, top stories kind of reflect what was already in the headlines. Trump to hold news conference on crime in D.C. after threatening federal takeover. President Donald Trump will hold a news conference Monday that he said will essentially stop violent crime in Washington, D.C. Continuing with the top stories. U.S. tourist killed by visiting Puerto Rico for Bad Bunny's residency. Again, we know we can check with the State Department if we plan to go outside the country and see what kind of travel advisory is posted, 1 to 4, 4 meaning maximum, do not travel, as to what areas we have an interest in. This is related to the Bad Bunny residency. The victim, identified as 25-year-old Kevin Merez, was killed at La Perla, a popular seaside shantytown near Old San Juan, police said in a statement. The shooting happened in the pre-dawn hours at a night spot called Shelter for Mistreated Men. Reyes was shot on the left side of his abdomen, was taken to Puerto Rico's largest public hospital where he died, authorities say. Homicide Detective Sergeant Arnaldo Ruiz told the Associated Press in a phone interview that shooting took place when several people near Merez began arguing, and one pulled out a gun and shot at least 3 people. 2 other men who lived in La Perla were injured and remain hospitalized. We're still in the early stages of establishing a motive for the events. We can't rule anything out until the interviews are completed, Reyes told local media, according to El Nuevo Dia. Ruiz added that Merez's 3 friends were also from New York. He did not have their hometowns. Location: La Perla is located on the outskirts of a historic district popular with tourists known as Old San Juan. A couple hundred people live in this shantytown, which once served as Puerto Rico's biggest distribution point for heroin and was known for its violence. Police used to avoid the community, which used to have a sign proclaiming "not open to visitors, do not enter." But violence eased when hundreds of federal agents raided the slum in 2011 and arrested dozens of people, including a well-known community leader who was later convicted. The neighborhood became even safer and more welcoming after Puerto Rican singers Luis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee featured it in their hit Despacito. But isolated violent incidents persist. The island of 3.2 million people has reported 277 killings so far this year, compared with 325 killings in the same period last year. Social media warnings about herbal tactic feel free. This is one of those situations when they call about gas station heroin. It's not really in it. It's timely and it's a public service. Some social media users are warning about the herbal supplement Feel Free, which contains kava root that is touted for its relaxing effects, and Khartoum, a plant native to Southeast Asia that's known for its stimulant and opioid-like effects. That gave me pause. You getting both from the same plant? Anyway, the company that makes Feel Free, Botanic Tonics, tells NBC News that out of roughly 130 million servings sold, they received fewer than 1,000 consumer adverse event complaints. NBC News' Maya Eglin has the details. So let me see if I can get this one going. And even though it's buffering, you can see what the packaging looks like. Feel free. Buffering, it is what it is. Well, maybe not. It says, sorry, the video failed to load. But keep the name in mind. There's a warning, public advisory, PSA. Feel free, gas stations. And rounding the corner with number 10 on the top stories, magnitude 6.1 earthquake strikes Turkey, causing about a dozen buildings to collapse. The earthquake, with an epicenter in the town of Sindriji, sent shocks that were felt some 125 miles to the north in Istanbul, a city more than 16 million people. A magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck Turkey's northwestern province of Balıkesir on Sunday, causing about a dozen buildings to collapse, an official said. At least 2 people were trapped in the debris of a collapsed building. The earthquake, with an epicenter in the town of Sindriji, sent shocks that were felt some 200 kilometers, 125 miles to the north in Istanbul, a city of more than 16 million people. The mayor had a comment. Health Minister Camille Mesengulu said on X that 4 people were being treated in the hospital. None of them were in life-threatening condition. Our hope is to get through this without any loss of life. Ahmet Akin, the mayor of the provincial capital, which is also called Balıkesir, told Haberturk. Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Agency said the earthquake was followed by several aftershocks, including one measuring 4.6, and urged citizens not to enter damaged buildings. In 2023, a magnitude of 7.8 earthquake killed more than 53,000 people in Turkey and destroyed or damaged hundreds of thousands of buildings in 11 southern and southeastern provinces. Another 6,000 people were killed in the northern parts of neighboring Syria. So, world, that is your news and items and the headlines and top stories for today, Monday, August 11th. Coming to you from the Sideshow, I'm Theodore Parker. We still have some time, as I've said, each week to the summer. As I was perusing through the headlines and top stories, I ran across this one. I know some people have an interest in amusement parks. I couldn't pull it up. I looked for it, but I wasn't able to re-grab it again. There's an amusement park that's touted to be the oldest amusement park in Pennsylvania. It still has the wooden roller coaster deal, handmade ice cream and all these other kind of amenities that make an amusement park what we remembered it to be. And that's in Pennsylvania. And if you want to access it, I'm quite sure you can Google it if that's something you might want to plan to do, because parking is free, admission is free, everything related to it is free. Apparently you can just go there and have a good time doing what amusement parks were built for you to do. That's it. Hashtag